Orpha, poet writer, and welcome to the second installment on my channel. I'm going to do two things this time. First, I want to read a few pages from my literary fiction novel, The Botleys of Beaumont County, available on Blurb, and also a poem, and I'll talk more about why, from Accents on Amazon KDP. To the novel, the main character is Slurred Botley. Yeah, that's right, Slurred. S-L-E-R-D. He and I go back a long ways, although he underwent a metamorphosis at some point. Back when I was in high school at Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania, Plymouth White Marsh High School, go Colonials, as I was working my way up to be editor-in-chief of the Town Crier newspaper, I was writing all kinds of columns. And one was a running gag, so to speak, was about the people on the main line of Philadelphia just across the Schuylkill River from us, folks who had money, folks who had the lifestyle that was so unlike everyone else's, people who had some unusual names that they gave for many generations to the family, and Slurred sounds like a good name for whatever reason. Botley, must have heard it somewhere, I don't know where. But when I was rewriting the novel, which is a story in itself, I needed a name for a character, and Slurred Botley seemed just perfect. So it's really Dutch. I give sort of a made-up explanation of it, but there was a lot of immigration from the Netherlands to the United States around 1820, 30, and 40. Some went north and formed places like Holland, Michigan. Others came south, came up the Savannah River into Georgia and South Carolina. Some of that's in my wife's family tree. What's from Belgium in my family tree came from my Belgian-born French-speaking grandmother. Anyway, and Slurred, and I go through etymology of sorts. But that's a family name, and he gets it. The Botleys of Beaumont County, Chapter 1, Election Day 2008. Mercy, it's 7 o'clock already. Taylor Swift's Our Song came out from the clock radio. Good thing school is close by. I have to take Mama to vote. She wanted me to come by at 8. And so began November 4th, 2008, in room 12 at the Rendezvous, located conveniently close to Marion, a small-sized county seat in the southeastern United States. The Rendezvous was one of those places where guests parked behind the room rather than in the front. In that way, passers-by on Lake Cumberland Boulevard would not know exactly who was staying. Outside of a few travelers on the nearby interstate, most of the clientele were locals who, for reasons of propriety, could not be seen together. Slurred Beaumont Botley and Jessica Sinclair Cavendish belonged to that second group. They were no strangers to room 12, and certainly not to each other. High school classmates and sweethearts until societal conventions parted them. They had been occasional adulterers for a few months. She was to have been staying with a teacher friend in another part of the state after a visit to a high school. He was to have had business in the state capital. After completing his 3 S's, Army jargon for shave, shower, and shit, Slurred got dressed and let Jessica have the bathroom. After a quick cuddle and kiss, he left for Mama's house on the other side of Marion. Jessica would dash to school, fresh as a daisy, for her first block English 3 honors at Southwood High School, the premier secondary school of the Beaumont School District. The rural Springfield High School was the other school. Once behind the wheel of his 2005 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, Slurred readied himself for the day ahead. He allowed the fleeting memory of Jessica to dash through his mind and put the car into reverse. Within a few minutes, he was passing by the Botleys cement block plant, founded by his grandfather Jefferson Davis Botley in 1947, then guided by his eldest son of the same name. The plant was now run by Dexter, with some assistance from his elder brother, Slurd. Dexter was the businessman. Slurd was the attorney. With the practice in town, though he spent some of most days at the plant. At the red light, Slurd tuned into the local radio station 105Z for a laugh. Evangelist Joed Crudup was on. The Botleys were Episcopalians and believed the airways were not created for religious indoctrination, except for a chorale piece. Joed was live and histrionic this morning. He wanted Christians to get out and vote. The gates of hell have opened, and the Afro-Leninist demons have been unleashed. Joed told anyone who was tuned in, please get out and vote for the Republicans. This might be the last free election in America. We might be the United States of Zimbabwe by 2012. Save us, Jesus. Glory. Joed's screaming delivery degenerated into maudlin pleading. Slurd rolled his eyes as he watched his speed through downtown Marion, which was slowly waking up. No reason to be delayed for a ticket. All he wanted to do was to take Mama to vote and then get to his office. Joed was by no means finished. His voice grew even more shrill and urgent. Obama is a Muslim, and Biden is a Catholic. We need good Christians in Washington. John McCain has seen the light. Sarah Palin is God's agent to restore morality to our nation. Take a friend to vote with you. Armageddon can be delayed a little longer if good Christian people. After a few seconds of dead air, Slurd pushed another button. Now Outlaw Country on Sirius XM played, and Waylon Jennings' rich baritone soothing Slurd's ears. The world was good again, at least until Slurd pulled up the 1487 Hampton Drive. No sooner had Slurd pulled into the driveway when Eustacia Camilla Beaumont Botley slammed the side door shut and said to her firstborn, Sonny, you're late. In the way of much of the South, the firstborn male was referred to as Sonny, as long as members of his immediate family drew breath. The sullen Slurd knew better than to say anything. Eustacia was dressed in a gray suit, pearls around her neck, her white hair expertly permed as it had been for decades. The moment they were en route to the Fairlawn Community Center to exercise their constitutional right. On the other side of town, Jessica, near its Southwood High, home of the Rebels, running a little late. She was caught in that line of cars heading for the school. At the traffic light before her turn, her modest green Saturn L300 was behind a few tricked-out trucks and imports driven by students, hastily texting their locations to their friends. One of the vehicles literally shook with the bass notes of a rap song. No wonder they can't hear teachers, Jessica mused. The light changed, and most of the vehicles turned onto Rebel Road. Jessica was fortunate that she taught in the portables, where the veteran teachers were placed to maintain discipline and to save administrators from walking outside of the building. She would park next to P3 and set out for the day of teaching. Emily Dickinson, whom the boys detested as an eccentric old maid, and check her mailbox off the main office later. At the same time, Sonny and Mama had parked and made their way into the Fairlawn Community Center. The parking lot was full of all sorts of vehicles, some new and shiny, others not, some held together with duct tape, many having dents, different colored fenders, and other signs of wear and tear. The Botleys hurried through the gauntlet of partisans stationed outside of the polling space, just beyond the legally established limits. Republicans faced Democrats, eager to hand out their voters' guides and "I voted" stickers. A black teenager tried to give Mama something, but Mama glared and said, "I have enough garbage at home already, and you should be in school." The teenager was stunned speechless and slurred, grabbed his mother by the elbow and pushed her ahead of him. It was a long line of people waiting to check in, and a much longer line of people waiting to vote. Mama said almost too loudly, "Of course they would all want to come out and vote this time," referring to the African Americans. "Now, Mama, keep it down," slurred pleaded. "It's their constitutional right." You say she was given to speaking without really listening to anything anyone else said in the conversation. That's why you lost re-election 8 years ago to the State House. When they changed the district to include the East End, no white man was going to win. That was a long time ago, Slurred said, hoping to put an end to that portion of the conversation. His 4 years in office were moderately successful and added to the luster of the Botley name. He had always been a Republican, having been born in 1968, that pivotal year when the Solid South switched its allegiance from donkeys to elephants. But the Republican Party began its rightward lurch around the time Slurred's political star ascended for its brief moment of glory. Slurred's GOP was anti-union, pro-business, patriotic. Slurred was a National Guardsman and Desert Shield Storm veteran, but contained its railing against Democrats to speeches. Over a drink or round of golf, members of both parties would talk and make deals. The religious right, Newt Gingrich's revolution, changed that. It was not the East End that thwarted his re-election bid. It was a challenge from a third-party candidate on the right that took 6% of the vote from Slurred, ensuring a narrow defeat. Much more after that. I haven't even gotten in line to vote yet. I like to read from Accents, a poem that mentions February, and that's the month we're in now, of course. And it's called Our Common Language for Dr. Rio Preisner. I'll just say a little bit in background. Dr. Preisner, whom I learned only a few years ago, was a published poet in his native language, Czech. I had him for 2 German courses at Penn State. I was a German major. And this is a conversation we had in the February of in the break during class. It was a romanticism class. Our common language was neither's native tongue. Patiently enduring errors in accent, he pointed towards the person I wanted to become. From a country adjacent to the one my father's people left 2 generations earlier, those ethnic rivalries softened. During a break on February afternoon, we spoke of Solzhenitsyn's arrival in the West. We Slavs are homesick when we leave the homeland, even if we suffered in it. He too knew of labor camps stretching towards Siberian oblivion, narrowly avoiding Gulag, aware of the similarities between the extremes on the political spectrum of the resultant pains. Decades later, learning of his poetry and acclaim after the madness ended, I wish I could send a signed copy to him. Perhaps he knows of it, perhaps, somehow, somewhere. Shalom, Herr Professor, Shalom. Of course, Herr Professor is German. Shalom, that's Czech or Slovak, which is like adieu, adios, saying goodbye, but commending someone to God's care. So again, I think about 3 pages from my novel, To Whet Your Appetite, and a poem, To Whet Your Appetite too. Thanks so much. You take care of yourselves.